All right, good morning. Today we're going to go on to tutorial 8, chapter 8. And we're going to do a little bit of reviewing on the if stuff. I'm going to do a couple of new things, a couple of new functions here, index and matched. They extend the capabilities of VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP, and some odds and ends and clean up some stuff. All right, so the assignment are 3 case problems from the tutorial or the book, and 1 here in this workbook. And I think that's all we need to say. All right, so again, ifs are such a popular thing, such a useful thing, that I thought we ought to go into them a little more detail again and talk about them. So I've got here a spreadsheet that has people who worked for us the past week, and we need to figure out how much money they made. On the left-hand side here, some information. Pay grades, I've got 4 different pay grades. And then if you work on the weekend, you get 1.5 your regular pay. And then if you work overtime, and it's calculated on a daily basis, you get some additional money. And then if you work 50 or more hours during the week, you get an additional $75. All right, so first thing we need is, well, I guess we can do this right now. All right, we need to calculate total hours, so we can just do an auto sum here. There's that. Okay. And then we'll just copy that formula down. And we're ready to go. Okay. So that weekly bonus, that's probably the easiest thing to do, so we'll do that one next. 50 plus hours, but there's a little comment down here that says that new employees are not eligible, so you have to be either pay grade A, B, or C. So that's we got 2 conditions here, right? 50 plus hours, and you're not a new person. So there's several ways to do this. We can do it with, well, you can do it with a nested if, or you can use an and. I don't know which is easier here. Let's do it with a nested if, I guess. Let's just do that one, right? Equals if, open parentheses. If the pay grade is not equal to, and that's the less than, followed right behind that with the greater than symbol. So if the pay grade is not equal to N, so that'd be double quote N, double quote, comma. Okay. So we know they're eligible for the bonus. Their pay grade makes them eligible. So now we have to check to see if they've got the 50 hours. So we'd have just a second if here, if. And then that cell where we just calculated the total number of hours for that week. If that's greater than or equal to 50, comma. So if that's true, that means they have the right kind of pay grade and they have the right number of hours, so they get $75. So we'll just put 75 there. Else 0, close parentheses, comma. We still have the else part of the first if to deal with. Okay. And again, if you're a new person, you don't get any bonus, so we'll just drop another 0 in there. And that takes care of that. Okay. So that first person there is pay grade B, 52 hours, they get to 75. So that's pretty good. So we can just copy it down. So on and so forth. I don't see any new people. Oops, here's one. Only worked 44 hours. So I'm just sort of checking this to make sure everything looks right. Okay. So there's that. All right, now, moving along. Pay, it's a fairly complex set of rules. So what I propose to do here is break this down into smaller steps and solve each one, and then we put the whole thing together at the end instead of trying to do everything at once. So the first thing I need to know, just because it's such a critical part of this, is their pay rate. So here we've got 4 categories. We could do this with an if, but a lookup would probably be a better way to go. It's a little bit easier, at least I think so. And these are, all right, so we got to check this. They are in ascending order. So that makes life simple for us here. We can just do VLOOKUP equals VLOOK up, open parentheses, their pay grade, comma, the lookup table, those 2 columns, like that, and we're getting the answer out of column 2, so comma 2. And that array, we want that to stay the same as we copy the formula down, so we should make that a fixed reference. Okay. And let's just copy this down. Okay, so I see immediately there's a problem here that people in pay grade B are getting A's pay rate, right? That should be 20. Let's check here. C should be 30, that's right. And do I have, here's a new person. There's a 12 there, which is what they're supposed to get. Okay. So there's something funny going on here. And if you come back and look at your lookup table here, that what we really have in that cell, if you look really closely, is B and a space, not just a single letter, but 2 letters, B space. And that's what's causing the problem. So if I just get rid of that space, that trailing space, push enter, then people in pay grade B are now getting the correct amount. So once again, every time you use a VLOOKUP, you want to be very careful and check your answers, because it's easy enough to get something wrong. All right. Okay. Now then, we've solved the easier stuff. Next step. If they work 8 or less hours a week, they get the number of hours times their regular pay rate. So we'll just worry about that right now, and then we'll worry about overtime in the next step over. So here, equals if. And so go back to Sunday, because we got to do this on a day-by-day basis, so we'll just do Sundays here. If that's less than or equal to 8, which means they work just a normal amount of hours, regular hours that week, or that day, excuse me, then hours worked times their pay rate, right, comma. If they worked more than 8 hours, they still get that first 8 hours at their regular pay. So here we would just say 8 times their regular pay. Close parentheses. Okay. So that guy worked at least 8 hours. There's 160 for him, 000. That looks good. So again, I'm just sort of checking my stuff here to make sure. Here's a guy. He worked 9 hours, but 8 times 12 is 96. Okay. So we took care of the regular pay. So now all that's left to do is calculate their overtime pay. And so we can deal with that. So here, if equals if, open parentheses, hours worked is greater than or equal to 10, well, because that's the higher rate. We'll just do that one first here. Greater than or equal to 10, comma. Oh, wait. Hold on a second. Back up. Is there an easier way to do this? Yes. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to insert a column for now. And I'm just going to calculate how many overtime hours they have. So that's simple. That's just a simple subtraction. It's just hours worked for that particular day minus 8. Except then I get all that. So what I should do then is put that inside an if, right? If overtime hour is greater than 8, comma, then we'll calculate how many hours they've got, else 0, right? They have no overtime hours. And then I should be able to copy that down, and I should get something that looks fairly reasonable. Oh, I forgot. Comma 0 here. Okay. All right. So everybody with me here? A little bit of a detour. Again, just if I can break this up into simpler steps, then I'll just do these. Why not? Extra columns are cheap in Excel. We can just do this sort of stuff. All right, now that makes this a little bit easier to work with over here. If equals if. The overtime hours is greater than 2, comma. Right. No. It's greater than or equal to 2. Because 10, that'd be 2, right, greater than or equal to 2. Gotta pay attention to my conditions. All right. If that's true, then we know there's those 2 first hours overtime. We can just go ahead and calculate that. So it would be 2 times their pay rate, which is, right here, times 1.5, 1.5 times 1.5, right? Plus the stuff that's 10 and above. So then here we'd have to say plus the quantity overtime hours minus 2, because we're looking at 10, 11, 12, times their pay rate times 2. Does that make sense? We check to see if it's 10 or more, which means that gap between 8 and 9, they get time and a half for, so we calculate that without thinking about it. And then plus whatever's additional time above 10 or above goes to twice their normal pay. And the combination of those 2 things is their overtime pay for that day. Comma. Then we check to see if it's above 0 because they might have worked 8 plus hours. So then again, you'd say here if number of hours they worked, overtime hours they worked, that is greater than 0, comma, then they get the number of hours they worked, which is Q6 here, times their hourly times 1.5, comma, 0. Okay, right? If they didn't work more, if it's not greater than 0, then they get 0 overtime pay. And close parentheses once. And do I need a second one? And I need a second one. Well, okay. And there's close parentheses, right? Right. Let's try that. Okay. And that looks pretty good. Okay. And so then the amount would simply be regular plus overtime. Well, actually, it's not, right? There's still one other step here. Over here, if they work on the weekend, there's another 1.25. So it would be, to get this right here, we should say equals the quantity, regular pay for that day, plus overtime pay for that day, close quantity, close parentheses, times 1.25. And then there's the amount that they made for that day. Okay. All right. When you're doing this sort of stuff, if you can break, instead of trying to write that as one big complex formula over here where this amount is, right, you can break it up into steps like that, add some extra columns, and do that sort of stuff. Have I shown you how to copy pieces of one formula to another one? No? All right, sure. Easy enough here. Let's go back to, well, here. Okay, well, let's just do this one right here. P6, right? Look at, I said P6 plus R6. Well, P6 is that formula there, right? There's no numbers, well, there's some numbers, there's a formula. So if I wanted to, what I could do is come back to here, just, and I'm going to highlight the formula, but not the equal sign. Then I'm going to copy that to the clipboard. So I just right-click copied. Then I'm going to push the escape key in the upper left-hand corner of the keyboard. That takes me out of the edit mode. Then I'm going to go back to where I want to paste that piece of formula. So I go over here to amount, and where it says P6, I'll take that out. And then I'll just paste in that formula I just copied, like that. And then I can do the same for Q6. And then I can get rid of some stuff. And in fact, if I look at this closely here, then I can do the same here, and then I can get rid of some columns and stuff like that. So when you look through the book, or you go listen to somebody talk about Excel, and they have a big complex formula, 95 out of 100 times, they did stuff like this. They broke it up into steps. They solved each part separately, and then they were all done. They copied the thing back together to make it, just to get rid of all the extra columns. And it makes them look like a genius, but it's really just, you know, sort of a divide and conquer sort of approach to this. All right? So questions about any of this stuff here this morning? Okay, we got to move on. Your chance on P1. Up here at the top of each one of these columns, there's a little comment. You may have to edit it. I don't know why it does that. If you can't see the whole thing, you can just right-click, go edit comment, and then you can just stretch the box out so you can see it. Anyway, there's a little rule up there that tells you how to fill in each column. All right, so go ahead and give that a shot, and then we'll go on to new stuff.